Throughout life, many people have wondered why some kind and gentle individuals have troubled love lives. They treat others sincerely, never harm anyone, and always strive to do what's best for them. Yet they often encounter obstacles in their romantic relationships. This leaves many feeling confused, even doubting whether living a good life truly brings the happiness they hope for. Ancient wisdom says that those with great fortune often have to overcome deeper challenges before reaching lasting happiness. These challenges are not meant as punishment, but rather as a process of growth, helping people understand the value of emotions and learn to appreciate those who are truly right for them. When a person possesses a kind heart, they are often tempered by life's profound emotional experiences, so that when they meet the right person, they are mature enough to maintain that relationship for a long time. Many relationships come and go not because we are unlucky, but because each encounter brings a necessary lesson. Some people appear to help us understand ourselves better. Some help us realize what we truly need in love, and others teach us how to be stronger after being hurt. Looking back, we will see that it is precisely those seemingly unsuccessful moments that help us become a more mature version of ourselves. Kind people sometimes go through many emotional challenges because they are preparing for a more valuable relationship. When their inner selves are strong enough, when their perspective on love is mature enough, they will no longer chase fleeting emotions, but will know how to choose someone who is truly a long-term partner. Happiness that comes later is sometimes more lasting because it is built on understanding and experience, not just on initial feelings. In this video, we'll delve deeper into the ancients' perspective on love, understanding that challenges in relationships aren't necessarily signs of bad luck, but rather a process of accumulation leading to a timely and fulfilling relationship. Stay tuned until the end to discover profound lessons that will help you reflect on your own romantic journey with greater serenity. If you find the content valuable, please share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more meaningful lessons. 1. Blessed people often possess kind hearts, and it is this kindness that makes them easily invest their affection in others. They view life with trust, see people with tolerance, and always desire relationships built on sincerity. When they love someone, they usually give wholeheartedly, without calculating gains or losses, and without thinking too much about how much they will receive in return. Therefore, they easily experience profound joy in love, but sometimes they are also easily hurt when their sincerity is not reciprocated as expected. Kindness leads people to believe that everyone has a good side within. They are willing to be patient, willing to wait, and willing to forgive when others make mistakes. In many cases, this patience and tolerance help them maintain valuable relationships, strengthening bonds over time. However, sometimes excessive trust leads them to place their affections in people who are not truly suitable, or who are not mature enough to appreciate what they give. When that happens, kind-hearted people often suffer more because they have invested their whole heart and soul into that relationship. However, disappointing romantic experiences are not a sign of disadvantage. They are a process that helps kind-hearted people learn to love more mindfully. Initially, they may love with intense emotions and great faith, but after each experience, they gradually understand that love requires not only sincerity, but also compatibility, mutual respect, and maturity from both sides. Once they understand this, they don't lose their kindness. They simply learn to place their feelings more appropriately. Blessed people don't change their good nature just because of a few hurts. They may be sad, they may be disappointed, but ultimately they choose to live kindly. That very choice opens up better relationships for them. As they continue to live sincerely, while also understanding their own worth, they begin to attract people who appreciate kindness and reciprocate with genuine care. These later relationships tend to be more enduring because they are built on understanding and maturity, not just on initial feelings. One admirable quality of kind-hearted people is that they don't love solely for the sake of receiving. They help others because they see it as right, and they care for others because they feel it's their duty. This attitude creates a positive energy around them. Often, they don't realize that their kindness is silently creating beautiful relationships in the future. Some relationships may not last, but each time they give with sincerity, they are sowing good seeds for their own lives. Those who are fortunate sometimes experience profound emotional challenges, not because they are unlucky, but because they are learning to love with a balance between heart and mind. When young, they may give everything without much thought, but over time, they understand that love doesn't mean excessive self-sacrifice, nor does it mean accepting everything just to maintain a relationship. They learn to love while maintaining their self-worth, to care while knowing their limits, to open their hearts while also being selective. It is this process of maturation that makes their feelings deeper later on. When they meet the right person, they no longer love hastily, but with calmness and understanding. They learn to listen more, share more, and appreciate the little things in the relationship. Their partner is usually someone who understands the value of sincerity, knowing that kindness is not something to be taken for granted, but a gift to be cherished. A person with a kind heart, who, despite experiencing countless hurts, maintains their goodness, is a sign of good fortune. Not everyone can retain warmth in their heart after life's hardships. When they continue to live kindly and treat others with sincerity, they are creating a solid foundation for lasting happiness. Their romantic journey may not always be smooth, but these experiences help them better understand the value of true companionship. So, if you're someone who easily gives your heart to others, don't immediately think of it as a weakness. It's a sign of a loving heart. The important thing isn't to change your inherently kind nature, but to learn how to place your sincerity in the right place, with the right people, and at the right time. When you do that, you'll realize that kindness doesn't harm you, but rather leads you down a slower but more steady path where truly worthwhile relationships will gradually emerge and last. 2. When love is deep, hurt is also deep. This is a very natural law of human emotions. The level of pain doesn't come from external actions, but from the depth of the inner connection. When we invest a lot of feelings, trust, and expectations into a relationship, our hearts naturally become more sensitive to any changes. Even a small act of indifference can create a feeling of emptiness, and even an unintentional word can make us think for a long time. Deep love means allowing someone to enter a significant part of your life. You share your time, your thoughts, your dreams, and even the fears you previously kept hidden. When someone becomes a familiar part of your life, their presence brings a sense of security and peace. Therefore, when distance or change occurs in the relationship, the feeling of loss becomes much more apparent. This isn't because you're weak, but because you truly loved with all your heart. Many people, after experiencing heartbreak, tell themselves that next time they will love less to lessen the pain. However, loving less is not necessarily a way to be happier. When we try to maintain emotional distance, we also reduce our ability to feel the profound joy of love. Happiness and heartbreak always coexist. The more open a person is, the more likely they are to experience both intensely. The important thing is not to avoid loving deeply, but to learn to love with greater maturity and understanding. One of the reasons why emotional pain is so severe is that we place all our happiness in one person. When all our emotions depend on a single relationship, any change in that relationship has a huge impact. Conversely, when we maintain our own lives, pursue our personal goals, maintain friendships, and uphold our own values, we love without losing ourselves. Even if feelings change, we still have a foundation to stand firm on. Deep love doesn't mean sacrificing everything. Deep love means genuinely caring, listening, building together, while still respecting oneself. When a person understands their own worth, they love with warmth, but don't let themselves be drawn into unbalanced relationships. They are willing to give sincerely, but also understand that love needs to come from both sides. This balance makes the relationship more enduring and helps people avoid unnecessary hurt. It's also important to understand that hurt isn't always a negative thing. Each time the heart experiences pain, we learn a lesson about people, compatibility, and ourselves. We understand better what we truly need in a relationship, the boundaries we should maintain, and how to recognize who truly cherishes us. These lessons make subsequent relationships more mature, calmer, and more profound. People who have loved deeply and suffered deeply often have a better ability to understand others. They know the feeling of abandonment, the feeling of disappointment, and therefore they cherish those who remain by their side more. They no longer love hastily, but love with patience and observation. When they find the right person, they know how to maintain the relationship with consistent care and attention instead of relying solely on fleeting emotions. Some people are afraid of being hurt, so they choose not to open their hearts again. But time shows that the human heart is not made to live in isolation. When we dare to love again, even with old scars, we give ourselves the chance to experience new joys. Scars don't weaken the heart. They remind us to love with more awareness. We can still love deeply, but no longer put our entire life into one person, no longer neglect our own value, and no longer consider a relationship to be everything. In fact, the pain of deeply loving shows that we are sensitive, committed, and appreciative of feelings. The scary thing isn't having been hurt, but that after the pain we become cold and lose faith in sincerity. As long as we retain warmth in our hearts, we still have the ability to build meaningful relationships in the future. Those who know how to love deeply and who also love maturely are often the ones who create the most lasting relationships. So if you've ever been hurt by loving too much, don't rush to assume you are wrong. Deep love isn't a mistake. What's needed is to learn how to love while maintaining balance in life, preserving self-respect, and preserving your own values. When your heart knows how to love wholeheartedly, while also protecting itself appropriately, you'll realize that deep love is no longer a cause of suffering, but becomes a strength that helps you find truly worthwhile and lasting relationships. 3. Ancient wisdom holds that emotional trials are part of the process of self-cultivation. This concept is not intended to justify suffering, but rather to help people understand that emotional challenges do not occur randomly. Every experience of love, every separation, every disappointment is a lesson that helps people mature more deeply in their understanding and emotions. When entering into a relationship, many believe that sincerity alone is enough to maintain a lasting bond. However, reality shows that feelings are always influenced by circumstances, personality, perceptions, and the timing of each individual. Some relationships, despite all efforts, cannot last until the end. When this happens, many feel it's unfair, believing they've lived good lives, yet still faced obstacles. However, from the perspective of the ancients, these clashes are a process of refining one's inner self. Emotions are where human weaknesses are most clearly revealed. When in love, we easily expose impulsiveness, excessive expectations, impatience, or the fear of abandonment. Things we rarely notice when living alone become apparent in close relationships. Therefore, each emotional challenge is like a mirror reflecting our inner selves, helping us see what needs to change within ourselves. Those who understand this will not only focus on the faults of others, but also learn to observe themselves to grow and mature. Many people become pessimistic after a breakup, believing that love only brings suffering. However, the ancients saw things differently. They believed that without experiencing trials, it's difficult for people to learn composure, tolerance, and understanding. Those who haven't experienced loss often love impulsively, while those who have overcome challenges appreciate genuine companionship more. Therefore, emotional hardships aren't meant to weaken a person, but rather to foster profound spiritual growth. It's easy to see that after every emotional upheaval, if people reflect and learn, they often become stronger. They understand what they need in a relationship, the boundaries to maintain, and the value of mutual respect. They also realize that love is not just an emotion, but also a long-term companionship, responsibility, and patience. These insights are not easily gained without having experienced hardship. Ancient wisdom also suggests that emotional challenges help people reduce attachment. When young, many believe that only one person can bring them happiness. But after experiences, we understand that happiness doesn't lie entirely in others, but begins with inner stability. When our inner selves are strong, we enter love with more serenity, less afraid of loss, and less clinging to things that aren't right. This change helps subsequent relationships become healthier and more enduring. The most important aspect of self-cultivation is not avoiding hurt, but learning to turn hurt into a lesson. Some people become withdrawn and lose faith after facing challenges, while others gain a deeper understanding of human nature and learn to appreciate simple things. The difference lies in how each person perceives their experience. When we see difficulties as part of the journey of growth, we no longer see ourselves as victims of circumstances, but as learners of each experience. The reality is that those who maintain their composure after many setbacks are often those with strong inner strength. They don't let one failure destroy their entire faith in life. They understand that each stage of life has its own lessons, and the right people will appear when they are mature enough to recognize and cherish them. This attitude helps them move forward without carrying too much resentment. Therefore, when we look back on emotional difficulties, we can see them as part of a process of character development. Each experience helps us understand ourselves better, understand others better, and gradually become a calmer version of ourselves. When our minds are stable, emotions, whether coming or going, no longer cause us to lose direction, but only become stepping stones that contribute to the fulfillment of life. If you've ever gone through emotional challenges, view them as a training ground for inner growth. If you find these insights valuable, please share them with those who need encouragement and subscribe to the channel to follow more lessons for living a more peaceful and meaningful life. 4. The ancients often said that those who are blessed are not those who always encounter good fortune, but rather those who have had the opportunity to overcome challenges and grow inwardly. This saying may sound paradoxical at first, as many believe that being blessed means a life without hardship. However, upon closer observation, we see that those with strong inner selves, calmness, and great tolerance have mostly gone through many difficult periods. It is these challenges that have forged in them a maturity that a life of complete ease could never provide. Throughout life, challenges are like essential lessons that help people understand themselves better. When everything is going smoothly, people tend to live by habit, rarely reflecting on themselves. But when difficulties arise, we are forced to stop, think, adjust, and learn to change. As a result, our inner selves become deeper, and our resilience increases. Those who have experienced challenges often understand the value of patience and realize that lasting success always requires time and effort. People with abundant blessings often possess good qualities such as kindness, sincerity, and a sense of responsibility. These qualities often lead them to be entrusted with more important roles, more demanding tasks, and sometimes more challenges. Life seems to present them with many situations requiring maturity to resolve. If they overcome these obstacles, they become more capable and have a broader perspective, while also accumulating valuable experience for the future. A major challenge for people is learning to remain calm in the face of adversity. When things go well, everyone can be happy and confident. But when faced with failure, not everyone can maintain their composure. Those who are tempered by hardship often learn to observe their emotions, avoid reacting impulsively, and wait for the right moment to act. This is a crucial ability that helps them go further in life, as many wrong decisions often stem from haste when under pressure. Challenges also help people understand their own limitations. Before experiencing setbacks, many people believe they can do everything easily. But the reality of life shows that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Through setbacks, we learn to be more humble, to listen better, and to seek support when needed. This humility doesn't weaken us, but helps us become more flexible and mature in our perspective on the world. Another important aspect of the challenge is the ability to cultivate empathy. People who have never experienced hardship often find it difficult to understand how others feel when they face adversity. But those who have gone through difficult times are often able to put themselves in others' shoes, thus becoming more compassionate. This empathy helps them build lasting relationships because people always sense sincerity in their treatment of others. A fortunate person is not someone who avoids challenges, but rather someone who has the opportunity to learn valuable lessons from each challenge. Some people lose faith when faced with difficulties, but others discover their hidden strengths through adversity. When forced to overcome circumstances, we realize we can be more resilient than imagined, learn new skills, and adapt to things we previously thought impossible. This realization gives us more confidence as we move forward. In many cases, challenges help people redefine what truly matters. When life is too easy, we easily get caught up in external goals like fame, comparison, or winning. But when faced with adversity, we realize that health, family, and inner peace are what have lasting value. As a result, our way of life gradually changes, becoming simpler yet more profound. Those who understand this tend to slow down, appreciate each day, and no longer waste energy on unnecessary things. One notable point is that those who have overcome challenges tend to have a long-term vision. They understand that success doesn't come immediately, and temporary setbacks don't define their entire lives. Because of this, they are more persistent, less likely to give up, and willing to start again when necessary. This perseverance is a crucial factor in helping them achieve great things in the future. From the outside, they might seem lucky, but the reality is that it's the result of a long and arduous process of self-improvement. Challenges also help people develop self-control. When things don't go as planned, we learn to control our reactions instead of blaming the circumstances. Gradually, we understand that what matters is not what happens, but how we deal with it. This self-control brings a sense of initiative in life, helping us no longer feel swept away by change, but become capable of charting our own course. Many people, after overcoming difficulties, often share that they are grateful for those seemingly daunting experiences. These experiences help them mature faster, understand themselves better, and appreciate the ordinary things they previously took for granted. This gratitude isn't because the difficulties were pleasant, but because they realized the value of the lessons those challenges taught. Looking back, they see themselves as much stronger, more resilient versions of themselves. Therefore, when we hear the saying that fortunate people are often challenged to grow inwardly, we can understand that challenges are not a sign of misfortune, but rather opportunities for profound development. Each time we overcome difficulties, we accumulate more patience, more experience, and more understanding of life. These things cannot be bought with money or learned through words alone. They must be formed through real-life experiences. If we look at it from this perspective, we will be less afraid when facing difficulties. Instead of thinking that we are experiencing bad luck, we can see it as a necessary training phase to prepare for greater progress. When we change our perspective, our mood also changes. We become calmer and more capable of finding effective solutions. This attitude helps people overcome challenges with growth instead of exhaustion. Ultimately, true happiness lies not in having a life with few hardships, but in the ability to transform those hardships into inner strength. Those who understand this will no longer desire an entirely easy life, but rather the resilience to overcome any adversity. When one's inner self is strong, no matter how circumstances change, it will not easily disorient them. And that is the profound meaning behind the fact that those who are blessed often face challenges that lead to inner growth. 5. Emotions are an indispensable part of human life because they help us understand ourselves and others more deeply, and learn lessons that mere reason alone cannot provide. In the journey of growing up, many realize that emotional experiences, whether joyful or sad, play a crucial role in shaping understanding and the ability to let go. Before experiencing deep love, people often view life from a simplistic perspective, but after experiencing attachment, loss, and change, their minds become more mature, empathetic, and appreciative of what they have. First and foremost, love helps people learn to empathize. When we love someone, we begin to care about their feelings, listen more, and try to put ourselves in their shoes to understand what they are going through. This process gradually expands our capacity for feeling, preventing us from viewing things solely from a personal perspective. People who are empathetic tend to be less judgmental because they understand that every action has a cause and every choice stems from a specific circumstance. This empathy makes relationships smoother and also helps us become more deeply introspective. Emotions not only help us understand others, but also help us understand ourselves. When entering a relationship, we realize our strengths, weaknesses, bad habits, and limitations that we may not have noticed before. Some realize they lack patience, others realize they are easily hurt, and some realize they don't know how to listen. These realizations are the first steps towards maturity, because only by understanding ourselves can we change and improve in a more positive direction. Therefore, each emotional experience is like a mirror reflecting our inner selves, helping us see our true selves. Another important lesson that emotions teach is the ability to let go. Not every relationship lasts a lifetime, and not every feeling can be held onto as desired. When faced with change or separation, people often experience sadness, regret, and even disorientation. However, it is these phases that help us understand that life is constantly changing, and clinging to things that are no longer suitable only leads to more exhaustion. Letting go doesn't mean denying the memories that once existed, but rather accepting that every relationship has a natural beginning and an end. When we learn to let go, our minds become lighter. We no longer try to control everything, no longer worry excessively about who will stay or leave, but focus on living well in each present moment. Those who know how to let go often maintain their composure in the face of change, because they understand that everything comes and goes for a reason. This very composure brings a sense of inner freedom, freeing us from lingering regrets. Emotions also teach people the value of appreciation. Having experienced loss or separation, we understand that moments spent together are not taken for granted. This teaches us to care more, to express gratitude more, and to spend time with the important people in our lives. This appreciation not only strengthens relationships, but also allows us to experience simple joys in everyday life. Those who appreciate things don't wait until they lose them to realize the value of what they once had. Another profound aspect is that emotions help people develop compassion. Having experienced hurt, we understand that everyone makes mistakes and has moments of weakness. This makes it easier to forgive and not hold on to negative emotions for too long. Compassion isn't about accepting all wrongdoings, but about understanding that prolonged anger only weighs down the mind. When we let go of resentment, we free ourselves from unnecessary emotional burdens, thus living a lighter life. Many people realize that after each emotional experience, they become more mature, whether the outcome is happiness or separation. They better understand what they need, what they should avoid, and how to build healthy relationships in the future. These lessons cannot be learned from books, but can only be formed through real-life experiences. Therefore, each time one falls in love, it is a step forward on the journey of self-improvement, helping one move closer to inner balance. Ultimately, emotions help people realize that the greatest value in life lies not in how much they possess, but in how they have loved and been loved. Understanding this, they stop chasing comparisons and focus more on nurturing genuine relationships. Those who know how to love deeply and let go at the right time often have a strong inner self, because they no longer fear change. They understand that every encounter has its own meaning. Every parting leaves a lesson, and it is these experiences that help them grow stronger every day. Therefore, love not only brings joy, but is also a journey that helps people learn to let go and understand. When we know how to love sincerely, and at the same time accept the changing nature of life, we will no longer fear the fluctuations of emotions. Instead, we see each experience as an opportunity to understand ourselves and life more deeply, thereby living more peacefully, maturely, and with a lighter heart on the path ahead. 6. Kind-hearted people often possess sincerity and faith in humanity. They believe that treating others well will be reciprocated with sincerity. Therefore, they are easily open-minded, readily develop feelings, and enter relationships with great trust. However, this very characteristic also causes many kind-hearted people to face challenges in love, not because they are unlucky, but because their genuine love makes them more vulnerable to hurt when encountering immature individuals. Kind-hearted people tend to view life positively. When meeting someone new, they don't overthink things but choose to trust first. They are willing to listen, share, and sacrifice time and effort to nurture the relationship. This sincerity is invaluable, but in reality, not everyone is insightful enough to understand and appreciate it. When they place their affection in the wrong person, kind-hearted people often suffer more because they have given too much trust from the beginning. Another reason why kind-hearted people often face challenges in love is that they tend to see the good in others before they see the bad. They believe that everyone can change, everyone has positive qualities, and that if they are sincere enough, the relationship will gradually improve. This perspective helps them live more peacefully and avoid excessive suspicion. But sometimes it also causes them to overlook early warning signs in the relationship. When problems become apparent, they realize that not everyone is willing to appreciate the sincerity they have given. Kind-hearted people often put the feelings of others before their own. When relationships face difficulties, they are usually the ones who try harder to fix things, and hope that things will improve over time. However, a relationship can only be sustainable when both parties make an effort. If only one person tries while the other is indifferent, prolonged sacrifice will turn into exhaustion and hurt. Such experiences, though difficult, teach kind-hearted people that kindness must also be accompanied by clear-headedness. Romantic challenges aren't necessarily a sign that kind-hearted people are facing injustice. Sometimes they're a process that helps them mature emotionally. Through each experience, they learn to observe more closely, set boundaries for themselves, and understand that love doesn't mean accepting everything. By balancing sincerity and discernment, kind-hearted people retain a warm heart but are no longer as easily hurt as before. Many people become withdrawn after setbacks in relationships, but kind and mature individuals choose a different path. They don't lose their kindness, but rather learn to trust the right people at the right time. They understand that sincerity remains a valuable asset, and when placed in the right place, it brings lasting happiness. The challenges they faced help them recognize who truly values them, and who simply come and go as a fleeting moment in their life's journey. Looking back, many realize that difficult periods in their relationships were actually preparation for finding a more suitable partner. Thanks to those experiences, they understand what they need, what they deserve, and no longer rush into giving their hearts to people who aren't truly right for them. This maturity helps them enter new relationships with a stronger mindset, knowing how to love but also how to protect themselves. Therefore, if you are a kind-hearted person who has faced challenges in love, don't immediately assume you're unlucky. Sincerity isn't a weakness. It's a value that makes you precious. The important thing is to maintain a good heart while simultaneously learning to observe, choose wisely, and love with both emotion and clear-headedness. When you do that, you'll realize that past challenges weren't meant to make you lose faith, but to help you grow and move closer to a truly worthwhile relationship. If you find this article relatable, Please share it with friends who need a more positive perspective on relationships. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue learning lessons that will help you live more peacefully and grow more mature each day. 7. Emotional wounds are often an undesirable experience, yet they are among life's most profound lessons. When things are peaceful, people tend to view the world with simple beliefs, believing that those who treat them well will stay, and that sincerity always receives sincerity in return. Only after experiencing disappointment, betrayal, or unrequited love do people gradually understand that human nature is far more complex than initially thought. Emotional wounds are like a mirror that helps us see the true nature of relationships more clearly. When things are going well, everyone can be friendly, everyone can say kind things, but when difficulties arise, when interests clash, when emotions change, people reveal how they truly perceive the relationship. Some people stay, still care, still stand by, even when circumstances are no longer easy. Others gradually distance themselves, become cold, or turn their backs when they realize they are no longer as beneficial as before. It is at such times that we realize who truly values us. Many people, after experiencing heartbreak, often lose faith in relationships. They believe that if they've been betrayed, it's best not to trust anyone again. However, the greatest lesson of heartbreak isn't to make us closed off, but to help us see people's true nature more clearly so we can make better choices. Before experiencing setbacks, people tend to trust too quickly, invest their feelings too soon, and place too much hope in things that haven't been proven over time. After difficult experiences, we learn to observe more carefully, understand actions better instead of just listening to words, and know how to reserve our trust for those who truly deserve it. Emotional hurt also helps people understand that not everyone who enters their lives stays. Some people come only to teach us a lesson, then leave when their role is fulfilled. Understanding this helps us to be less resentful and less bitter, and to view things more lightly. We realize that someone's departure isn't always a loss, but rather a sign that the relationship is no longer suitable for our journey of growth. Another important lesson that pain teaches is the ability to appreciate the value of sincerity. Before experiencing pain, many people take the care of others for granted. Only after losing someone do they realize that there were people who were genuinely there for them, but they didn't appreciate them. Through painful experiences, people learn to recognize small but persistent acts of kindness, quiet but lasting acts of care, and thus learn to cherish truly valuable relationships. Emotional wounds also help us understand that people's hearts don't always change for the worse. Sometimes it's simply because circumstances change. As people enter different stages of life, their priorities shift. Some focus on family, others on their careers, and some are going through personal difficulties and may not be able to maintain contact as before. When we view things with understanding, we become less extreme in our judgments and learn to accept that not all distance stems from betrayal. Heartbreak is also an opportunity for self-reflection. After a relationship ends, many people begin to question whether they had set their expectations too high, ignored signs of incompatibility, or neglected self-care for too long. These questions help us mature emotionally. We learn to love while maintaining balance, to give without forgetting, to protect our self-respect, and to slow down to understand someone before giving them our complete trust. Someone who has never experienced heartbreak often views love through simple romantic lens. Someone who has been hurt but has matured views love with greater depth. They no longer believe in hasty promises, but they trust in actions that are repeated over time. They no longer easily give away all their emotions from the start, but once they choose to commit, they are very steadfast. This maturity makes them more resilient and helps them build more lasting relationships later on. From another perspective, emotional pain is like a process of filtering relationships. After each difficult period, those who weren't truly committed will gradually leave, leaving only those who are genuinely interested. While this process may sometimes leave us feeling lonely for a while, In the long run, it makes life clearer. We no longer have to maintain superficial relationships, no longer have to try to please those who don't truly care, and we have more time to nurture truly meaningful relationships. The most important thing is that after being hurt, people need to maintain warmth in their hearts. Understanding people's true nature doesn't mean becoming cold. Understanding human complexity doesn't mean completely ceasing to trust. The greatest lesson is knowing who to trust, setting boundaries for yourself, and knowing that your value doesn't depend on whether a relationship succeeds or not. When you maintain this composure, the experiences that once caused you pain will gradually become a foundation that helps you live more resiliently. Over time, many people realize that it was the painful experiences that helped them mature faster than any advice. Through disappointment, they understood people better. Through separations, they learned to appreciate those who remained. Through silent tears, they learned to be strong without showing it. And through all those experiences, they became a more profound version of themselves. So, if you're going through a painful period in your life, remember that today's heartbreak isn't the end of trust, but the beginning of growth. As time goes by, you'll look back and realize that it was those seemingly most difficult experiences that helped you see people's true nature, understand yourself better, and enter future relationships with greater wisdom and peace. 8. When people experience emotional pain, the initial feeling is often one of loss, disappointment, and difficulty accepting it. Many believe these experiences only bring hurt, but over time, they realize that these difficult periods actually help to cultivate a calmer and more profound state of mind. This calmness doesn't come naturally, but is formed through the process of confronting, reflecting on, and maturing from emotions that were once very intense. Before experiencing heartbreak, people often view relationships with high expectations. They believe that sincerity alone is enough, and that effort alone will ensure a lasting relationship. Therefore, when a relationship faces difficulties, their minds easily fall into a state of panic, unable to understand why everything changed so quickly. This very shock forces people to think more deeply about the nature of relationships, understanding that love requires not only emotions, but also compatibility, understanding, and maturity from both sides. After periods of heartbreak, people begin to learn to observe their emotions instead of reacting immediately. They realize that emotions come and go, and sadness has its own cycle. Understanding this, they are no longer so afraid when their mood is low, nor do they rush to fill the void with hasty decisions. This process of learning to be still with their emotions helps their minds gradually become calmer. One noticeable change after overcoming suffering is a more realistic yet warm perspective on people. Previously, they might have been trusting at first sight and placed high hopes in new relationships. After experiencing heartbreak, they learn to slow down, observe more, and let time prove sincerity. This doesn't make them cold, but rather helps them protect their emotions in a more mature way. Emotional suffering also teaches people the value of silence and reflection. Previously, when conflicts arose, they might react strongly, arguing to prove they were right. After maturing through difficult experiences, they realize that not everything requires an immediate reaction. Some things just need time to calm down, and some relationships can be resolved with a reasonable distance. This calmness leads to a more stable temperament and helps them avoid unnecessary stress. Another important lesson is that after experiencing pain, people understand that happiness cannot be entirely dependent on another person. Previously, they might have viewed relationships as the center of their lives, and when a relationship changed, the world seemed to fall apart. But after overcoming difficult times, they begin to build a more balanced life, dedicating time to themselves, their work, their family, and long-term values. When life has more pillars of support, their mood becomes more stable and calm. People who have experienced heartbreak are often more empathetic. They understand the feeling of being hurt, the feeling of disappointment, and the time it takes to recover. Therefore, when they encounter someone struggling, they don't rush to judge, but instead listen more attentively. This empathy softens their hearts while maintaining their strength, and this balance creates a unique calmness. Over time, many people realize that emotional upheavals have helped them mature much faster than periods of ease. Through sadness, they learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Through disappointment, they understand the value of genuine people by their side. Through facing challenges alone, they discover inner strength they never realized before. When they realize they can overcome seemingly difficult times, they become more confident and calm in the face of life's changes. The calmness that comes after suffering isn't a state of complete emotional detachment, but rather the ability to maintain composure even when emotions arise. Experienced individuals may still feel sadness, nostalgia, and emotion, but they no longer let their feelings control their decisions. They know how to wait, observe, and give themselves time to think before acting. This maturity helps them build stronger relationships later on and makes life easier. Therefore, emotional suffering is not only a challenge, but also a process of inner training. When one goes through difficult times with patience and reflection, they will realize that they become stronger, view things more calmly, and are no longer easily swept away by emotional fluctuations as before. This calmness is the silent gift that difficult experiences bring, helping each person to continue on their life's journey with greater maturity and peace. 9. People who have never experienced loss often take happiness for granted. When things are going well, when relationships are peaceful, when work is stable, people easily assume that these good things will always exist. Because of this familiar feeling, many people unintentionally underestimate the peaceful moments in their lives, only realizing the true value of what they once had when challenges arise. People who have gone through difficult times often change their perspective on life. They understand that nothing is certain forever, and no joy exists if it is not cherished each day. Their setbacks make them realize that happiness isn't about grand things, but often lies in simple things. A warm meal, a sincere greeting, waking up with a peaceful mind. It is these difficult experiences that help them see more clearly the value of these seemingly small things. When people face challenges, they are forced to confront their own limitations. There are times when it seems impossible to overcome them, times when everything feels against them. But it is the process of persevering that helps them realize an inner strength they had never noticed before. Once they know they can overcome difficult times, they are no longer easily panicked by small changes in life. This calmness allows them to cherish what they have, instead of taking it for granted. Challenges also help people understand the value of those who are genuinely by their side. When things are going well, there may be many relationships around, but when difficulties arise, only those who are willing to listen and support remain. Such experiences help them realize that happiness doesn't lie in the number of people they know, but in the sincerity of a few lasting relationships. From there, they learn to cherish every encounter, every word of encouragement, every small but genuine act of care. Those who have experienced challenges understand that success and peace don't come naturally. Behind every period of stability lies a great deal of silent effort and countless instances of patiently overcoming disappointment. Therefore, when they achieve something, however small, they know how to feel joy more deeply. They no longer rush after distant goals, but know how to pause and enjoy each step forward. It is this habit of pausing and appreciating that makes them feel life is more meaningful. Another significant change is how they perceive new challenges. Those who have never faced challenges are often afraid when encountering obstacles, while those who have overcome many difficulties understand that every stage has its ups and downs. Thanks to their past experiences, they believe that with perseverance, difficulties will eventually pass. This belief helps them maintain optimism and appreciate peaceful times, understanding that these are the result of much effort. Life's challenges also teach people the lesson of contentment. Previously, they might have always felt they lacked something, constantly comparing themselves to others and believing that only achieving more could bring happiness. But after experiencing periods of loss, they realize that simply having good health, a stable job, and a few close friends is precious. This feeling of contentment doesn't stop them, but helps them move forward with a lighter heart and less pressure. Experienced people are also more empathetic. When they see someone struggling, they understand that behind every smile, there may be a story that outsiders don't see. Therefore, instead of judging, they choose to listen and share. This empathy deepens their relationships and helps them better appreciate the meaning of human connection. Knowing that they are not alone and can be a support for others, they experience happiness in a more mature way. Challenges also help people realize the value of time. Difficult periods often make them regret the peaceful days before, teaching them to slow down, spend more time with family, their health, and the things that truly matter. They understand that if they only focus on work and forget their loved ones, it may be too late to turn back. Therefore, they learn to balance their lives and cherish every moment. Someone who has never experienced hardship might take happiness for granted, but someone who has weathered difficult times sees happiness as a gift. They know that each peaceful day is something to be grateful for, and each opportunity to start anew is precious. Because of this perspective, they live more deeply, enjoy life more, and are less caught up in unnecessary comparisons. Looking back, many realize that it was the challenges that helped them grow, understand what they want, need, and what they should cherish in life. Without those setbacks, they might never have realized the value of simple yet enduring things. Therefore, although no one wishes for difficulties, having experienced and overcome them, they understand that each challenge leaves a lesson, and the greatest lesson is to appreciate the true happiness present in their daily lives. 10. Great fortune is not just about the luck that appears in life, but also about the ability to maintain good things when circumstances change. Many people wish for great fortune, a prosperous life, and many good opportunities, but they rarely consider that maintaining good fortune over the long term requires a sufficiently broad and steadfast inner self. Therefore, in many ancient beliefs, those who are truly blessed often have to go through a process of self-cultivation before truly entering a stable phase of their lives. A person who has never experienced challenges is often easily pleased when things go well, but also easily disoriented when difficulties arise. If the mind is not strong enough, even blessings are hard to retain, like a small vessel unable to hold much water. Therefore, life sometimes presents challenges not to make people miserable, but to help the inner self gradually expand, increasing resilience and understanding day by day. When the inner self grows stronger, a person becomes capable of accepting and preserving good things for the long term. Difficult times often teach people patience. When things don't go as planned, people are forced to slow down, think more carefully, and act more cautiously. This patience is a crucial foundation for achieving great fortune later in life. Without patience, when good opportunities arise, they may act hastily, make wrong decisions, and lose the fruits of their labor. Conversely, those accustomed to the process of self-improvement know how to wait for the right moment and appreciate each step forward. Training also helps people learn humility. Through facing many challenges, people understand that success comes not only from personal ability, but also from circumstances, the support of others, and many uncontrollable factors. Recognizing this makes them less complacent, less dismissive of others, and more moderate in their lives. This humility helps them maintain good relationships, and genuine relationships are a crucial part of great happiness in life. A well-trained inner self becomes calmer in the face of change. Those who have never experienced hardship tend to worry easily at the slightest change, while those who have gone through many difficult periods understand that everything can be resolved if one remains calm. This calmness helps them make wiser decisions, avoiding impulsive actions that could harm what they have built. Therefore, when great fortune comes, they have the steadfastness to protect and develop it. The process of self-improvement also helps people understand the value of hard work and effort. By overcoming difficulties step by step through their own strength, they realize that success is not accidental, but the result of long-term perseverance. This realization makes them appreciate what they have and avoid wasting opportunities. Those who value their achievements tend to nurture and develop them better, thus maintaining their good fortune more sustainably over time. Another lesson that this training process imparts is the ability to empathize with others. People who have experienced hardship often understand that everyone has their own burdens, so they are more open-minded, more willing to help, and less judgmental. By living with empathy, they create many positive connections in their lives. These connections not only provide support when needed, but also create a positive living environment where blessings can flourish in the long term. Great fortune also demands great responsibility. When people have a better position and better conditions, they often have to make more important decisions that affect more people. If their inner selves are not mature enough, they may be overwhelmed by pressure, losing their balance and even their possessions. But those who have undergone training usually understand that responsibility is a natural part of good fortune. They prepare themselves mentally and learn to manage their emotions and actions more wisely. Many people, when looking at the success of others, only see the results and not the hard work behind them. In reality, those who maintain lasting happiness have often gone through many challenging stages, times when they felt like failing, and times when they had to start over. These stages help them accumulate experience, increase resilience, and broaden their perspective. When great opportunities arise, they are no longer surprised, but know how to seize them and develop sustainably. Therefore, if life presents challenges, they may not simply be difficulties, but rather a process of preparation for inner growth. Each time we patiently overcome a difficult period, our inner vessel expands, becoming larger enough to hold more blessings in the future. Understanding this, we will feel less unfairly treated by challenges, and instead view each stage of self-improvement as a necessary preparation for the long journey ahead. Great blessings require a great heart to maintain, and a great heart doesn't come naturally. It's formed through days of perseverance, through rising after failure, and through lessons of humility, patience, and compassion. When one's inner self is broad and strong enough, they not only retain their own blessings, but can also spread goodness to those around them, making life more meaningful and lasting over time. 11. Many people, when experiencing setbacks in their relationships, often feel unlucky, believing life is unfair because others easily find happiness while they constantly face difficulties. However, if we look deeper, some unsuccessful relationships are not a loss, but rather life's way of silently protecting people from unsuitable encounters. Before understanding this, we easily feel sad and regretful, but with enough experience to understand, we realize that some departures are actually a way to ensure our future safety. In the early stages of a relationship, people often judge each other more by emotions than by deep understanding. Initial attention, shared feelings, or sweet moments easily lead us to believe that this person is the right one for the long term. But over time, true personalities, life values, perspectives on life, and the ability to support each other through difficulties gradually emerge. If two people are not truly compatible in these core elements, a long-term relationship can lead to exhaustion, conflict, and deeper hurt than the sadness of an early breakup. Some relationships, if prolonged, can rob people of their inner peace. When two people don't share the same goals, one wanting to move forward while the other wants to stop, or one seeking sincerity while the other isn't ready for responsibility, these differences will inevitably create distance. If they persist due to fear of loneliness, social pressure, or regret over the time invested, both may embark on a stressful journey. In such cases, an unfavorable start is sometimes life's way of helping us stop before things go too far. Many people, after experiencing a failed relationship, often look back and realize they overlooked many signs of incompatibility. This could be a lack of respect for feelings, irresponsibility, or differing life goals. While intense emotions can easily lead to these things being overlooked, time is always the clearest test. If a relationship ends early, sometimes it's not a failure, but a necessary ending to avoid greater hurt in the future. Unfavorable romantic experiences also help people understand themselves better. After going through a difficult time, we begin to realize what we truly need in a relationship, what are non-negotiable values, and what are merely fleeting desires. As a result, in subsequent encounters, we have a more mature perspective, no longer making choices based solely on superficial emotions, but instead focusing on long-term compatibility. This maturity helps us move closer to truly compatible relationships. Sometimes life closes a door, not to take away our happiness, but to prevent us from straying onto a path not meant for us. If an unsuitable relationship continues, people may have to sacrifice many things, from peace of mind and self-confidence to the opportunity to meet someone truly more compatible. From this perspective, each setback in a relationship is like a redirection, helping us return to the right path instead of going further down a wrong choice. People who have experienced many challenges in relationships often cherish the right one much more when they find it. They understand that a lasting relationship is not only based on feelings, but also on respect, understanding, and the ability to overcome difficulties together. Because they have experienced incompatibility before, they realize the value of true compatibility and know how to maintain it better. It's also important to understand that the end of a relationship doesn't necessarily mean one person is entirely wrong or bad. Sometimes, it's simply that the two people aren't on the same path. Accepting that each person has their own path helps us blame ourselves less and resent the other less. This acceptance lightens the heart, allowing us to move on without carrying too much regret. Therefore, when relationships encounter difficulties, instead of simply viewing it as misfortune, we can see it as an opportunity to reflect, to grow, and to prepare for a more suitable relationship in the future. Life sometimes doesn't take away our happiness, but rather removes what doesn't belong to us to make room for what is right. Understanding this will lessen our fear of separation and help us believe that each timely ending is silently protecting us on the long journey ahead. 12. Many people notice something quite special in life. Kind and sincere individuals often have to overcome many emotional challenges before finding a truly lasting relationship. This sometimes makes them feel disadvantaged, feeling that they love sincerely but don't find peace as early as others. However, if we look deeper into the journey of human growth, we will see that these challenges are actually necessary preparations for them to be strong enough to enter a long-lasting and truly valuable relationship. When people are young and haven't experienced many emotional ups and downs, their approach to love tends to be more focused on intense emotions than deep understanding. They are easily moved by attention, readily believe promises, and assume that love alone is enough for a long-lasting relationship. However, reality shows that a lasting relationship requires more than that. Maturity, patience, empathy, and the ability to overcome difficulties together. These qualities don't come naturally. They are usually developed through experiences, hurt, and the realization of what truly matters in a relationship. Blessed individuals often possess kind hearts and live sincerely, making them deeply attached to others. Because their love is so profound, they feel the pain even more intensely when faced with challenges. However, each emotional ordeal helps them understand themselves better, discerning their needs and what they shouldn't sacrifice. As a result, they gradually become more mature in their choices, no longer loving based solely on fleeting emotions, but instead observing how their partner lives, treats others, and faces difficulties. This transformation forms the foundation for avoiding past mistakes and finding a more suitable relationship. Emotional challenges also help people learn calmness. Before experiencing hurt, we tend to react emotionally, be impulsive, and let our ego take control. But after a few setbacks, we realize that lasting stability lies not in moments of intense emotion, but in long-term stability. People who have overcome difficulties are often better listeners, know when to compromise, and maintain respect in relationships. These qualities make them more trustworthy partners in the eyes of their suitable partners. It's worth noting that when people are not yet mature enough, even if they meet a good person, they are not guaranteed to maintain that relationship long-term. Impatience, poor communication skills, or a lack of understanding of emotional responsibilities can cause even a good relationship to gradually crumble. Therefore, early challenges are sometimes not meant to destroy happiness, but to help people mature before entering a truly important relationship. When they are mature, they know how to appreciate the person beside them, how to resolve conflicts more gently, and how to prioritize the common good of the relationship over fleeting emotions. People who have gone through challenges often realize the value of peace. They are no longer so attracted to superficial glamour, but begin to seek stability, sincerity, and a sense of security in their relationships. This shift in perspective helps them meet more suitable partners, because when we change our standards, the people who enter our lives also change. This is why many people, after a difficult period, unexpectedly find very stable relationships, not because of sudden luck, but because they have become a more mature version of themselves. Challenges also help people understand that a lasting relationship isn't always easy. There will be disagreements, and life's pressures will wear both partners down. But those who have weathered many storms tend to be more resilient and less likely to give up when faced with difficulties. They understand that long-lasting relationships require patience and mutual adjustment, not just initial feelings. Therefore, when they enter a relationship with someone suitable, they are more likely to maintain it sustainably. Another important point is that people who have experienced hardship tend to appreciate happiness more. Having suffered loss, they understand the value of having a truly sincere person by their side. They don't take love for granted, but strive to nurture and protect the relationship. This appreciation makes a big difference, because many relationships break down not because of a lack of love, but because of neglect and a lack of care over time. It can be said that the journey through challenges is like a process of inner refinement. Initially, people may be weak, vulnerable, and easily swayed by emotions, but over time, they become stronger, understand their own worth, and recognize what is worth cherishing. When two people have gone through their own personal growth processes and meet at the right time, the relationship that forms usually has a much more solid foundation than relationships that begin when both are too young. Therefore, looking back, many realize that past emotional challenges were not a meaningless period. Those experiences helped them learn how to love correctly, how to choose the right person, and how to build lasting relationships. Once they understand this, they no longer view past difficulties with regret, but rather as necessary preparation for finding true happiness. After facing challenges, fortunate individuals often find more enduring relationships, not because life has been kinder to them than others, but because they have matured enough to recognize the true value of love and are strong enough to cherish it. When their inner selves are strong, their perspectives are mature, and their hearts understand what truly matters, the relationships that follow often bring lasting peace. This is the silent reward for those who persevere through trials without losing the goodness in their hearts. 13. Ancient wisdom often says that emotional hardships are not misfortunes, but rather paths to human growth. This statement may initially seem difficult for many to accept, as it's hard to believe that suffering can have a positive meaning. However, observing the journeys of many individuals, we realize that these emotional upheavals are often the most profound lessons that no school can teach. In our early years, people's views on love are often idealistic. We believe that sincerity alone is enough, that loving deeply can overcome any obstacle. Because of this belief, when faced with heartbreak, many feel lost and even believe life has been unfair. But from the perspective of the ancients, these experiences are not meant to break people down, but rather to help them understand themselves, human nature, and the rules of relationships more deeply. Before experiencing heartbreak, people tend to love based more on emotion than understanding. They are easily attracted by sweet words, initial attention, or superficial appearances. But after facing challenges, they learn to observe more closely, realizing that the strength of a relationship lies not in fleeting emotions, but in responsibility, respect, and the ability to overcome difficulties together. This realization is a crucial step in their inner growth. Emotional hardships also help people understand their own limits. Previously, we might have been willing to sacrifice too much, willing to accept hurtful things just for fear of losing the one we loved. But after painful experiences, we gradually realize that love doesn't mean losing ourselves. We learn to maintain self-respect, learn to set healthy boundaries, and understand that a good relationship is one where both partners are respected. This change isn't about becoming cold, but about becoming more level-headed. Ancient wisdom holds that the human heart is like precious metal. To become strong and durable, it must undergo a process of tempering. If life is always smooth sailing, people easily become impulsive, hasty, and let their ego dominate. But when facing emotional challenges, we learn to control our emotions, think more deeply before acting, and view things from multiple perspectives. These qualities not only help us mature in love, but also make us more resilient in all aspects of life. Another great value of emotional challenges is that they help people understand human nature. Before experiencing such challenges, we tend to view others with absolute trust. But after some experiences, we understand that each person has their own circumstances, personality, and choices. We learn to distinguish between words and actions, and to observe long-term stability instead of just looking at fleeting appearances. This understanding helps us choose the right people in the future. Emotional events also teach people the lesson of letting go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting completely, but accepting that some relationships only accompany us for a certain period of time. When we cling to something, we easily live in regret and resentment. But when we understand that each encounter has its own meaning, we begin to look at the past with more serenity. This letting go helps to lighten the mind and opens opportunities for more suitable things to enter our lives. Many people, after experiencing emotional turmoil, find themselves becoming calmer. Previously, they might have been easily swayed by the emotions of others, but after profound experiences, they learn to maintain inner balance. They no longer react strongly to minor changes, no longer rush to place absolute trust, and no longer let a relationship dictate all their emotions. This calmness is a clear sign of maturity. Ancient people believed that those who are truly blessed often have to undergo a process of inner cultivation before achieving lasting happiness. This isn't because life wants to make things difficult for them, but because to maintain long-lasting happiness, one needs a sufficiently strong inner self. If the mind isn't mature enough, even a good relationship can be lost due to hasty reactions or thoughtless decisions. Therefore, early challenges are sometimes necessary preparation for the future. Looking back at the journeys of many people who have achieved lasting happiness, we often see that they all went through difficult phases in their relationships. These phases helped them understand the value of sincerity, the importance of nurturing a relationship daily, and the significance of mutual respect over impulsive emotions. Therefore, when they met the right person, they knew how to maintain the relationship with patience and maturity. Emotional trials, therefore, are not just pain, but also a profound learning process. They help people understand themselves, others, and the rules of relationships. They help us realize that love is not just an emotion, but also responsibility, understanding, and long-term companionship. Having gone through this process, we enter subsequent relationships with a different mindset, calmer, more clear-headed, and more appreciative. Therefore, the ancients said that emotional hardships are not misfortunes, but paths to emotional growth. When facing difficulties, we may only see pain, but over time, we realize that these experiences have helped us become stronger versions of ourselves. When the heart has matured, the way we love changes, the way we choose changes, and the relationships that follow often bring more lasting peace. Understanding this, people will no longer despair when facing setbacks in their relationships. Instead of viewing it as a complete loss, they can see it as a necessary learning process. Each time they overcome a challenge, their inner selves expand, their understanding deepens, and their ability to maintain happiness in the future increases. With this perspective, they will be calm enough to move forward, patient enough to grow, and confident enough to wait for truly suitable relationships. Emotional hardships often leave people heartbroken and confused, but looking back after a long journey, many realize that these experiences have helped them grow. Before being hurt, we tend to love more with emotion than with understanding. But after going through trials, we learn to see things more deeply and rationally. Emotional setbacks help people understand the value of sincerity. Previously, we might have easily believed sweet words or fleeting emotions, but after setbacks, we gradually realize that what sustains a relationship is respect, patience, and long-term responsibility. As a result, the way we choose and cherish love also changes in a more mature direction. Emotional challenges also help us understand ourselves better. We learn what we need, where our limits are, and what truly brings us peace. When we understand ourselves, we no longer chase relationships that only bring fleeting emotions, but begin to seek a more suitable and stable companionship. This is a crucial step in our inner growth. Many people become calmer after going through difficult times. They no longer react hastily to small changes, no longer place their entire happiness in one person, and no longer let fleeting emotions guide important decisions. This calmness is not coldness, but the result of a deeper understanding of life. Looking back on the past with equanimity, we realize that each encounter brings its own lesson. Some people come to be long-term companions, while others come simply to help us understand human nature and ourselves better. When we accept this, we no longer view setbacks as complete failures, but rather as a natural part of our journey of growth. Emotional hardships, therefore, are not a sign of misfortune, but rather a process that helps people become stronger and understand more deeply the value of true love. When one's inner self is strong enough, one will know how to cherish the right person, how to maintain relationships with patience, and how to let go of things that no longer belong to them gently. If you've ever faced challenges in your relationships, view them as lessons that help you grow and understand life better. Each time you overcome a difficulty, your inner self becomes stronger, and that growth will open up better opportunities in the future. If you agree that emotional challenges are sometimes the path to becoming stronger and more profound, please share this video so that more people can reflect on it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue following meaningful life lessons.